becoming, one of the things you're doing is you're identifying yourselves as a leader. Now, I heard when the previous speaker was speaking, he did share, I heard some people share some concerns about perceiving themselves as leaders and things of this nature. But the fact of the matter is you are at a leadership retreat, so you are in some ways identifying yourself as a leader. And when we do that, identify ourselves as a leader, we're not just doing that here at Peirce College. But one of the things that we're saying is that we're a leader in general, right? We're a leader, we become leaders in our communities, we're leaders in our homes, right? In our churches, whatever religious organizations we may be a part of. And essentially to the world at large, we're identifying ourselves as leaders. And that's really important to keep that in mind. Because no matter who you are, and he made a really good point, is that it's not about a title. Leadership is not about a title. It's more about an attitude, a perspective that you have concerning yourself that makes you a leader. So with that in mind, I want you guys to applaud yourselves for identifying yourselves and being willing to identify yourselves as leaders. And without further ado, go into the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, before I go there, I would like to also thank my wife, Rachel Mariano, standing up here. And that's my daughter, who was also helping to hand out things. I was 10 when I had her in kids. I have a lot of explaining to do with that, but I think that's what happened. I'm sticking to that. So without further ado, as Michael said, and I agree with Michael, it is about the man in the mirror, right? It's all about the man in the mirror. It's how we perceive ourselves. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, that's what's going to determine where it is we go in our lives and how we impact others. Because you guys as leaders are saying, someone's following you, right? If you're a leader, someone should be behind you. Otherwise, someone said, if you're a leader and no one's following you, you're just going for a long walk. So you guys have someone is following you. And you want to keep in mind, you want to have the correct perspective regarding yourself if others are going to follow you. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. It's very important how you perceive yourself. Now there's I promise not to preach a sermon, but one of the stories I'm going to share with you is from the Bible. And it's regarding the story of the 12 spies. Some of you guys are going to be quite familiar with it, some may not. But in the story of the 12 spies, what happened was Moses was given instructions to send 12 spies into this land that they were going into, the promised land. They were going to go check out the promised land. So Moses took one spy from each of the 12 tribes of Israel and set them on the right. He said, listen, I need you guys to go check out this land. We'll see what's up with it. See if it's as nice as it's supposed to be. See what the people look like, things of this nature. He said, go check out this land for me. And then come back and give me a report. So they do it. They go to check out the land and give a report. And when they come back 40 days later, they come back. And of course, like with any other group of people, you get a mixed response on what kind of land they saw. Now, they all saw the same land, right? They all went to the same place. You know, you didn't have one person go to Camden. Did y'all see the special on Camden? Yeah. There was anyway, the news did a Brian Williams did a thing on Camden, but they didn't send somebody to Camden and somebody to Chestnut Hill and things of that nature, so they had completely different perspectives for that reason. They all went to the same place. Now, what was interesting is when they came back, again, they of course had different perspectives on it, because you had some people saying, wow, this land is great. The fruit is huge. You guys know the story. The fruit's supposed to be so big that, you know, it took 2 men to carry a bunch of grapes on a staff. And it took 2 men to bear up this group of grapes. And then it's like, you know, the land was flowing with milk and honey. I don't know if the milk and honey thing was about back in the Bible days, but apparently that was a big deal, to be flowing with milk and honey. So they said, yeah, this land is really great. But then there was another group who said, whoa, wait a minute. They said, the land was nice. There's some really nice land there. It was incredible. I agree with you. The fruit was incredible and all of that. But there's a problem. There's giants in the land. One of them's my bodyguard now. But anyway, he said, the guy said, listen, there's giants in the land. You know, we can't go up against those people. What are we going to do? You know, they're just tear us up or whatever. He said, we can't go in there. So we had these two different perspectives. One saw that. One focused on the land. The other focused on the obstacle. And what was interesting is at the end of the passage is what I really want to take you guys to. At the end of the passage it said, we were, and the people that were giving what's known as the evil report or the negative report of the land, one of the things they said, at the very end they said, we were as grasshoppers in our own eyes. And so there we were in their eyes. Now it's interesting because it wasn't that the giants saw them as grasshoppers. Ooh, I feel like I'm preaching. Get the offering plate ready. But it's not that they saw them, not that the giants saw them as grasshoppers. They saw themselves as grasshoppers. And then they said, so therefore they're going to see us as grasshoppers. So I have a question for you guys. When you guys look in the mirror, actually you guys have a mirror. Take a mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror. Now I have a question for you guys. When you look in the mirror, when you guys look in the mirror, what do you see? I want to know, do you see a giant? What do you see? Grasshopper. That's a fair question because some of us are going to in fact see giants. Some of us are going to see grasshoppers. Some of us may see something in between. But the point of the matter is, how you perceive yourself is really going to be a huge determining factor in how you lead. Because if you're a grasshopper, if you see yourself as a grasshopper, you're going to lead very differently if you see yourself as a giant. As a matter of fact, if you see yourself as a grasshopper, you may not think that you have anything to offer at all to someone who's following you. So keep that in mind, that you want to how you perceive yourself is a very important dynamic to becoming a strong leader. Now, when you talk about leadership, well, let me step back. One of the things we talk about with Impact is we help people with, again, we help entrepreneurs. One of the things we talk about is understanding your client, things of this nature. And there's a term that's sometimes used in advertising, at least a certain type of advertising, called an egoic label. An egoic label is just a label that you refer to yourself as that becomes very powerful to you, that you associate with, that's positive, and so it makes you say, yeah, that's me. And one of the most powerful egoic labels is that of a mother. Usually if you're a mother, if I say, would all the mothers stand up, those who are mothers would probably stand up immediately. It's something we tend to be, not me, but you guys tend to be proud of, right? Now for me, I have a couple we all have a bunch of egoic labels. A couple of egoic labels that I have is that I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a husband, I'm a father, right? So I have a bunch of egoic labels. I'm an author, a speaker. There's a bunch of things that we have. You guys also have egoic labels that you probably associate with yourselves, and hopefully you have a bunch of them that are positive. We may have some that would not be considered egoic labels, they would be more on the negative side. But we all have egoic labels. What are some of the egoic labels that some of you guys have? Besides mother, of course.
Just a great person.
Okay, exactly. That's very good. Anyone else want to share one real quick?
Motivator.
There you go. Exactly. So we have these things that we kind of associate ourselves with. What was interesting, though, and this is taking a bit of a turn, but one of the things that's interesting is now I said you guys are leaders, but no one threw their hands up and said leader. I just found that to be interesting. But when we think of leaders, now you talked about the previous. I'm sorry, your first name is just jumping out of my head. I'm sorry, Reggie. Thank you. I just didn't want to call you wrong thing. Rather ask and call wrong things. One of the things Reggie did was he talked about the styles of leadership. Well, I'm going to talk about different types of leadership from a slightly different perspective. I'm going to put leadership in 3 categories. You have the leaders on this side. These are what we call the born leaders, the leaders who jump up. Whenever there's a time to lead, you need leaders, they got their hands in there. That's me. I'm that dude. I want to be that type of leader, right? And then you have, I'm sorry, if I pull a microwave, please let me know if you're not hearing because I talk with my hands. They got the leaders in the middle. They're sort of reluctant leaders. I have some qualities of a leader. I can do some of the things that leaders do. I can do what that guy does. But I just don't, I'm not the guy saying, yo, everybody pick me, right? And then you have the leaders over here. I call these the leaders in denial, right? They're the leaders that come to a leadership conference but don't think they're leaders, things of that nature. And we just may not perceive ourselves as leaders, but the fact of the matter is we all have something to offer people that are around us. We're ahead of somebody in some area of our lives where we can at least help them up, even if it's just our kids or some close friends or things of that nature. There's always some opportunity in which we can take the lead. So I would ask you, now I don't need you to identify yourself, I'm not asking you to raise your hand, but when you think about these types of leadership, you want to kind of understand where you are in this flow, or in this continuum, if you will, of types of leaders. Understand where you are. Now I would say I'm in the middle. Never been the guy over here. Hey, I'm a born leader. I never really perceived myself that way. As a matter of fact, I needed people to identify leadership in me before I could even get to here. Because first I was over here. I was the one in denial. And then people started seeing certain gifts in me. So then I was able to move to the center. And then, well, I don't know if I'll ever say, hey, I'm this person over here, but I'm enough of this person to realize if no one else, if that person's not here, then I can step into that role. Now some of that comes in a lot of different ways. We all get to where we're going on our own path, right? We haven't all finished our 4-year degrees, and by the time we were 22 or maybe 42 or maybe 52, we all get to where we're going at a different pace. So it's not about where you are right now so much. You want to identify where you are so that you can move from one place to the other. But what I want you guys to think about is if you perceive that you're over here as a reluctant leader, give some consideration and consider yourself to realize that you have enough giftings in you to be here, to at least stand here. If no one's there willing to lead, be willing to step up and take that opportunity. I remember when I was, I have a black belt in Tennessee, and through that training process, one of the things that my instructor, and again, I told you I was over here, but through different things, whether it was in business or working with him, I learned that I was really here. This is really where I was. And then in further training with him, I realized, yeah, I need to be able to step over here at a moment's notice. You need to always be ready to step into that leadership role. So keep that in mind, that how you, again, back to the original point, is how you perceive yourself is going to be huge. So consider how you perceive yourself, and you want to try to work on enhancing that to move over into another area. So we're talking about the man in the mirror. So when we look in the mirror and we see ourselves, we have to deal with this is the perspective that we